I recently joined this Facebook group, and the first post that I interacted with was someone looking for advice on what pool table to buy for his home. Now, someone immediately jumped on this and started recommending a Supreme winner pool table. In fact, she sent quite a few messages as to why you should buy that particular table. What she failed to disclose was that she's actually worked for Supreme Pool for about 20 odd years, and if I'm being kind, I will say she maybe embellished a few facts about the build quality of Supreme Pool. But it struck me that someone who's not clued up on all the characteristics of pool tables would find that information quite misleading. What he really needed was some genuine, impartial advice on what pool table to buy. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to take what I would consider maybe 3 of the top brands in pool tables, talk about the characteristics of each, and hopefully by the end of this, if you're considering buying a pool table, then you'll be in a more informed position to make the right choice for you. And if you're already kind of clued up on all this, then maybe you'll just find it quite interesting. So let's start with the Supreme pool table. Now, I've moved the camera around so you can get a fuller picture of my pool table. And the reason I've done this is that Supreme, Black Ball, which my table is, Optima, Cry Wolf, these are some of the bigger brand pool tables, but if you notice, they all look very, very similar. They're a similar shape, similar kind of build. They probably use a lot of the same parts. So if I talk about Supreme Pool, there's nothing that immediately jumps out as being better than any of those other brands that I've just mentioned. What I would say about it is that if you go to any pub in the UK that's maybe got a 1 or 2 table setup, there's a good chance that it's a Supreme table. So there's a familiarity there. You'll recognise what a Supreme looks like. You'll recognise how it plays by getting one in your home. It plays great. You don't need to make any embellishments about the quality of a Supreme table. You can pick one up probably for about £1,700–1,800 brand new, and that will be for your kind of standard black surround, maybe a green or blue Hainsworth cloth. But once you start playing on it, you'll have no issues really, or no major issues. It is a really, really good table, and it's still used in a lot of competitions across the UK. Now, I'm making that point just now because when I talk about another table, I think this is a key characteristic. What you need to consider when buying a table for your home is what you're actually going to use it for. Is it just for your home, just for a bit of fun, just to play and get better? Or are you someone who plays in a league, plays in competitions? Because if you are, I think you need to consider this. Maybe not so much with the first 2 tables that I'll talk about, but certainly for the last one. So if you want a bit of fun in your home, Supreme table is perfect. If you want to practice in your house and you also play competitions and stuff, a Supreme probably is still quite a good option, unless you play in competitions that use a Rasson Apollo. Now, there aren't many of them at the moment unless you're an ultimate pool player, but I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes bigger and you start to see more of them in competition. Couple of things to point out with the Supreme if you are considering buying one. Some of them have clips on the side, hinges on the side to lift the top frame off the bed of the table. So you need to lift this up if you're doing any kind of repair work inside, or if you're changing the cloth. You need to take the top of the table off. Now, there are clips underneath, little kind of, I don't know what they're called, little clasps that tighten it down. Some Supremes have a couple of hinges, so the top actually comes up. There's a piece of string that holds it in place. It comes up and it sits upright. So rather than coming straight off, it sits upright. Now, if you are using this at home, you need to consider that if, like me, I play in a garden shed, my ceiling is quite low, it's probably only about 2 meters high. I don't think that I could get the tabletop up there. I don't think it would work. So that's one consideration. Not all Supreme tables will do that. I think it's possibly the older ones play like that. But the second consideration is if it does have hinges on the side, it doesn't have the clasps on here. Now that is important. So in this table, there are 2 clasps on every single cushion to hold it down. Now what that does is it gives you a consistent bounce off the cushion. Some Supreme tables will have 3 or 4 clasps, I think, on one side, and 1 here and 1 here. So it'll be right in the middle of the cushion. So here, the cushion will be quite tight to the bed. Here, it could be loose. So it does affect the playability of a Supreme. And the other thing to point out, as you have probably noticed this, happens quite a lot, you can pot a ball right in the centre of the pocket of a Supreme, and you don't even have to hit it particularly hard. Sometimes it will bounce out. But apart from that, a Supreme is an excellent table. It is really good. I played on one for years and years and years, still do play on them, still enjoy it. So a Supreme is definitely a table to consider. I'll now talk about black ball tables. Now these are my personal favourite, but please don't let that sway you. I'm not here to try and sell you a black ball table. I just want to give you the facts and information and let you make the decision on what's right for you. So as I said, it is a very, very similar looking table to a Supreme. Even inside, it's got a lot of the same parts in the same places. It's roughly the same price, so a black ball table you can pick up from On Cue World. They start around £1,700, but you can customise them. So I have got this in a silver oak finish. There is loads of different finishes that you can get, and a blue Hainsworth match cloth. Again, you can customise whatever cloth you want. It plays very, very similar to the Supreme. I think it has got 2 key advantages over it. So first of all, that bounce out in the pocket does not happen. You know, I've had this table for probably about 6 years now. I've played on black balls for even longer, and I've never had a bounce out. They're specifically designed not to give you a bounce out. So it you know, greatly improves playability, in my opinion. The other thing that I mentioned is about the number of clasps that hold this down. So this comes straight off. There are 12 clasps on this table holding them down, so 2 on each cushion. There's little holes underneath the table that you can put your hand into and undo the clasp. So there's 2 here, 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and 2 here. Now that makes it very, very consistent. I've never tended to notice any loose spots on the table, and in fact for the length of time that I've had this table, I've never even had to tighten them up. You know, they're still very, very tight. So I would, you know, I wouldn't go against this table. I really, really like it. The other thing is, so back to that point about, you know, what you're using it for. If it's just at home, then you will get a lot of fun out of this table. You'll have no issues with it whatsoever. But also, it is used in quite a lot of competitions. So we've got an image here from the Nations Cup in Gibraltar. There was loads of tables moved across for that, and they're great. Another one from my local pool hall, Oakleview. They've recently had 8 new black ball tables installed, and they look great. Another thing to think about with them, and this is what I really like, is that you can choose different sizes of pockets. So I went for the Elite version, which is a smaller pocket. It's 3.2 inches, it's particularly small. What I like about this is if I practice at home on this table, I get used to quite tight pockets. If you then go to a pub to play a league game or a competition or whatever it is, you tend to play in bigger pockets. The game almost seems easier when you go from your home table to the pub. So I think it helps you improve further. The flip side of that is that if you're just using this table for at home, you maybe don't want tight pockets. Certainly there's people who want to feel like in practice they can't miss and they're playing you know, very, very well. So if that's you, I would suggest just leave the elite pockets. Just go for the standard ones. They're big enough, and you'll have a lot of enjoyment from that. If you did want to purchase a black ball table, then you can get them from OnQ World. They are one of my sponsors, but they've not asked me to make this video. I'm not getting anything from them for this. I'm just simply giving you facts and figures on the different options available. I would personally recommend the black ball, but don't let me sway you. Please make up your own mind. And if you do have any questions about any of the tables that I've discussed or any others that I might have played on, I will be more than happy to help with impartial advice. The last one that I want to talk about is the new kid on the block, the Rasson Apollo. It is probably the most recognisable pool table in the UK right now, and it's because it is linked to maybe the biggest brand in pool right now, Ultimate Pool. It is a professional, Ultimate Pool is a professional circuit. Players are on TV all the time playing on the Rasson Apollo, so their own table with their own set of balls and their own cloth. So it's really, really recognisable. It looks great in my honest opinion. I think it is a fantastic looking table. It looks really, really, really nice. A few things to point out about it. So first of all, the price. I think it starts about £3,000, so it's a fair bit more than the others. But if you are someone who cares about brands and how things look, then it may well be worth that extra price to you. I know a lot of people who have installed them in their homes, and they do look great, they play great, and they were more than happy to pay that extra amount. Playability wise, this is a one that's a bit different, and you really need to consider this if you're thinking about buying a Rasson Apollo. If it is a table for your home, then go for it. It is brilliant, it looks brilliant, it'll look nice in your home setup. It plays really, really well. It plays very, very different to these types of tables, and there's a few reasons why. So if you want to go from practicing in your home to then playing competitions that are maybe on Supremes or black balls, I think you will notice a difference, and it might not immediately help you. If you're a beginner or amateur, then playing at home will help you improve. No matter what table you play on, it will help you improve. It will get you to a new level. I think when you're at that new level, it could become a bit of a hindrance, going from one table that plays one way to another table that plays vastly different. And the reason that it plays different, well, there's two reasons. First of all, the cushion is lower down. So it makes playing shots off the cushion easier because you can hit more of the cue ball. So it is easier in that respect. But more importantly, because the cushion is lower down, it's hitting lower down on the cue ball, so it changes the bounce slightly. It does have, you'll notice on it, these little bits here that separate the cushion from the tabletop. They're slightly raised on pretty much every single table that you can get. They're not there on the Rasson Apollo. I really, really like that feature of them. I think it makes it look aesthetically more pleasing, but it changes your cueing. You can get your cue flat there. If I put my cue there just now, it is raised slightly. So not only is the cushion lower, but you can also get your cue lower. So I do think that's a particularly good feature. I really, really like it. Inside as well, they're all quietened down. So if you're buying it for your home and you've got people in the house that don't like the noise of a pool table, if you're maybe in the dining room or whatever and you want to keep it quiet, it is a good feature that I think it's all kind of plastic fittings and it moves all the balls in a certain way. So it's a lot quieter than these tables. I've actually had to soundproof my table, not because I'm annoying people in the house because I'm out in the shed, but I soundproofed it just for my videos, because if I pot a ball and I'm talking, it's kind of hard to hear me. And I do have a video that I've linked to right now on how to soundproof your table if that's something that you want to do. The second thing about it is the pockets. They are big. They're bigger than They're bigger than standard black ball, never mind the black ball elite. They're bigger than a Supreme, so they're a lot more forgiving. So if you're at home, then great. You know, it's fun to play on a table where, you know, you can pot everything. If you're going from that to then you're playing on a black ball or a Supreme or whatever it is, you know, you're doing the opposite of what I like to do, where you play on a tight table and then move to bigger pockets. You're going from big pockets to tighter pockets, and I think that adjustment can be quite difficult. The other thing is quite a lot of people pair all the ultimate pool stuff together. So you'll get the Rasson Apollo, you'll get their cloth, which is a great cloth and does play very, very similar to Hainsworth. But they also like to go for the Dynasphere pool balls. Sorry, I've not got them on the table right now. I've switched about. They go for the Dynasphere pool balls, which every single ball is 2 grams heavier than the Aramith Pro Cups. So the cue ball is 2 grams heavier than that cue ball, and the object balls are 2 grams heavier as well. That really, really affects how they play. I personally love them. I really, really like them, and I've done a review. I'll link that up here as well. Sorry, I don't know if I can link 2 videos from the same one, so if I can't, send the description. I personally love it, and there's a review of Pro Cups versus Dynaspheres. But back to the Rasson Apollo. So it looks great, it plays great, it is more expensive, and if you are going from that to a different table, I think the adjustment once you're at a certain level will be quite difficult to manage. The price is obviously quite a bit more, but I am sponsored by Ultimate Pool as well, so this is me showing you my impartiality, that I'm not going to say go and buy a black ball table or go and buy a Rasson, but if you are buying them, then use my code, which is in the description, at Ultimate Pool, and you'll get 5% off it. So 5% off £3,000 is what's that? £150. So £150 back to you. That's better in your pocket than in anyone else's. So I hope you appreciate that. But anyway, I hope you appreciate the facts that I've given you on each of the tables. If you do have any questions, then please let me know in the comments, and I will answer every single one of them, I promise.